Sergeant Thomas Wright noticed the teacup first. Small detail, easy to miss. But in a decade of service protecting the royal family, he'd learned that small details mattered most. The teacup sat on the sideboard in the morning room at Kensington Palace, handle facing the wrong direction. Princess Charlotte always placed her cup with the handle to the left. Always. She was 9 years old
service
and
tell
already
him
more
this is not
consistent
coincidence.
than most adults
It is
Wright had
deviation.
ever met. Polite, careful, deliberate in her movements. Today, the handle faced right. Wright moved past it, continuing his routine patrol through the family wing. Thursday morning, 10:30. The palace hummed with its usual rhythms. Staff preparing lunch in the distant kitchens. Footsteps on hardwood floors above. The grandfather clock in the east corridor marking time like it had for generations. But something felt off. He couldn't name it yet, just a feeling in his gut. The same instinct that had kept him alive during multiple deployments overseas. When the air pressure changes before a storm. When silence means danger instead of peace. Charlotte had been different lately. Quieter during the morning routines. Less of the chatter she usually shared with her protection detail about school projects and her brother's antics. Wright had worked her security rotation for 8 months now. Long enough to know her patterns. Long enough to recognize when those patterns shifted. 3 days ago, she'd flinched when someone approached from behind. A member of the household staff, carrying fresh linens. Completely harmless. But Charlotte had jerked away, then caught herself, forced a smile, apologized for being jumpy. Children didn't apologize for being startled, not unless they'd been told to hide their reactions. Wright continued down the corridor, his trained eye scanning everything. Fresh scratch marks near the floor along the baseboard, recent. The wood showed lighter color underneath, meaning someone had scraped something heavy along this section. A trunk, maybe, or a piece of furniture being moved. Nothing wrong with moving furniture. Except, this was the family wing. Changes here went through formal requests. Wright checked his security log on the tablet he carried. No furniture movements authorized for this corridor in the past 2 weeks. He photographed the marks with his phone. Quick, professional. Probably nothing, but probably wasn't good enough when protecting children. Before we continue, make sure you hit subscribe. Drop a comment below where you're watching from. Now, back to what happened next. Wright rounded the corner and nearly collided with Queen Camilla. She stood perfectly still in the hallway, which was the first strange thing. People moved through hallways. They didn't stand motionless in them, staring at closed doors. Your Majesty. Wright stepped back, giving appropriate space. Good morning. Camilla turned. Her smile appeared instantly, but it took a half-second too long. Wright had been trained to notice micro-expressions, that tiny delay between seeing someone and smiling at them. Sergeant Wright, making your rounds? Yes, ma'am. Standard morning patrol. Very thorough, as always. Her hand moved to her pearl necklace. Touched it, released it, touched it again. I trust everything is in order? Yes, ma'am. All secure. She nodded, but her eyes flicked past him. Down the corridor he'd just walked. Looking for something, or checking if anyone else was coming. The children are well? Wright asked. Standard question. Part of his duties included maintaining awareness of the family's general well-being. Of course. Camilla's smile tightened. Charlotte is upstairs. Studying, I believe. Very diligent student. Wright knew for a fact that Charlotte had lessons in the East Wing schoolroom on Thursday mornings. Had for the past 3 months. Same schedule every week. I'm sure she is, ma'am. He kept his expression neutral. If you'll excuse me, I need to complete my patrol. Certainly. She didn't move. Just stood there as Wright continued past her, and feeling her gaze on his back until he turned to the next corner. Years of military service had taught Wright to trust his instincts. Right now, every instinct screamed that something was wrong. He diverted from his planned route and headed toward the schoolroom. Took the servants' stairs, the ones that allowed security to move through the palace without disrupting family activities. The stairs were narrow, dimly lit, and opened onto a small landing near the schoolroom entrance. Wright could hear voices through the door. The tutor, Miss Pemberton, asking about the War of the Roses. Charlotte's voice quieter than usual, reciting dates and names. Nothing obviously wrong. He was about to turn away when he heard it. A sharp intake of breath, like someone suppressing pain. Then, Charlotte's voice again, steady and controlled, and continuing her recitation as if nothing had happened. Wright checked his watch. 11 o'clock. Lessons ran until noon. He made a note on his tablet and continued his patrol, but his mind kept circling back to that sound, that tiny gasp. Over the next hour, he documented everything. The misplaced teacup, the scratch marks, Camilla's odd behavior in the hallway, Charlotte's unusual quietness. The tutor had mentioned nothing concerning in her reports, but tutors focused on academics, not security. At noon, Wright positioned himself near the family dining room. Lunch was informal on Thursdays, usually just Kate and the children, sometimes William, if his schedule allowed. Today, according to the daily briefing, William was in London for meetings. Kate was attending an event in Chelsea. The children would eat with their nanny, and whichever family member happened to be at the palace. Charlotte emerged from the schoolroom at 12:45. Her uniform was perfect, posture straight, hair neatly brushed. Everything exactly as it should be, except her sleeve. The left cuff of her cardigan was pulled down over her hand, fingers gripping the fabric from inside to keep it in place. Wright had 3 younger sisters. He knew that move. That was the move children made when hiding something on their wrist or forearm. A bruise, a scrape, something they didn't want adults to see. Charlotte saw him and smiled. Not her usual bright smile. This one was careful, practiced. "Good afternoon, Sergeant Wright." "Good afternoon, Your Highness. How were lessons?" "Very well, thank you. We're studying the Tudor period. It's quite fascinating." Too formal, too precise. Charlotte usually talked about history with genuine excitement, going off on tangents about the interesting bits. Today, she sounded like she was reciting prepared answers. "I'm glad to hear it." Wright kept his tone casual. "Are you feeling all right? You seem a bit quiet today." For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, relief, but it vanished so quickly, Wright almost thought he'd imagined it. "I'm perfectly fine, just focused on my studies." She walked past him toward the dining room, that left sleeve still pulled tight over her hand. Wright waited 30 seconds, then followed at a discreet distance. His duty was to protect, not to hover. But protection meant knowing when something was wrong. In the dining room, Charlotte sat at the small table, used for informal family meals. The nanny brought in sandwiches and fruit. Normal lunch, normal routine. Then Camilla entered. Charlotte's whole body went rigid, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. Her right hand moved to grip the edge of the table, knuckles white. "Charlotte, darling." Camilla's voice was warm, affectionate. "I thought I'd join you for lunch. Your nanny mentioned you've been working so hard this morning." "Yes, grandmother. That would be lovely." But Charlotte's face said otherwise. Her eyes locked on her plate. She reached for her water glass with her right hand, keeping the left hidden in her lap. Wright stood in the doorway, officially monitoring the room as part of his duties. Camilla glanced at him once, that same tight smile from earlier. "Sergeant, I'm sure you have other responsibilities. We'll be quite safe here." "I'm assigned to this section until 1400 hours, ma'am. Standard protocol." It wasn't entirely true. Wright had some flexibility in his route, but Camilla didn't need to know that. Of course. She turned her attention back to Charlotte. Now tell me about your studies. Charlotte recited facts about the Tudor dynasty. Perfect recall, perfect pronunciation. But her left hand stayed hidden, and she barely touched her food. Camilla reached across the table at one point, as if to brush a strand of hair from Charlotte's face. Charlotte flinched. Tiny movement, barely noticeable. But Wright noticed. Camilla's hand paused mid-air, then completed the gesture smoothly, as if the flinch hadn't happened. You seem tense, darling. Are you certain you're feeling well? I'm fine, grandmother. Just tired from concentrating. Perhaps you should rest this afternoon. I could sit with you, read you a story, like when you were younger. That's kind of you, but I have more lessons at 3. Those could be rescheduled. I'd prefer to keep my schedule, if that's all right. The conversation was perfectly polite, perfectly normal, and absolutely wrong. Children didn't refuse special time with grandparents unless something made them uncomfortable. Charlotte loved stories. She'd mentioned it dozens of times to Wright during their morning walks to the schoolroom. Her favorite thing was when family members read to her. Now she was making excuses to avoid it. Wright filed every detail away. After lunch ended and Charlotte returned to her afternoon lessons, he went directly to the security office. Small room in the palace's administrative wing. Banks of monitors showing feeds from cameras throughout the building. Officer Davies was on duty, monitoring the screens with practiced efficiency. Davies, I need to review footage from the family wing. Past 72 hours. Davies looked up. Something specific? Just checking some inconsistencies. Probably nothing. Which cameras? Second floor corridor, the section outside the morning room and family dining area. Davies pulled up the footage, spooling backward through 3 days of recorded video. Most of it was exactly what Wright expected. Staff moving through corridors. Family members coming and going. Security conducting patrols. Then he saw it. Tuesday afternoon, 16:32. Charlotte walking down the corridor toward her room. Well, alone, which was unusual but not unprecedented. She was old enough for some independence within the family wing. Camilla appeared from a side corridor. Quick movement. She reached Charlotte in 4 strides. The camera angle showed them from behind, but Wright could see Camilla's hand shoot out, gripping Charlotte's shoulder. Charlotte turned. Camilla's other hand moved. Fast. A blur on the footage. Then, Charlotte's head snapped to the side. Wright's stomach clenched. He knew what he'd just seen. Years of training. Years of recognizing violence. That was a slap. Clean. Sharp. Across the face. Go back, Wright said, voice tight. Slow it down. Davies rewound the footage, played it at half speed. This time the movement was unmistakable. Camilla's palm connected with Charlotte's left cheek. The young princess stumbled slightly, eyes caught herself. Camilla leaned in close, speaking directly into Charlotte's ear. 15 seconds of conversation, Wright couldn't hear. Then, Camilla walked away. Charlotte stood motionless in the corridor for nearly a minute. Then she raised her left hand to her face, touching her cheek. When she lowered it, Wright could see her shoulders shaking. She was crying, silently, alone in the corridor, 9 years old and trying not to make a sound. Jesus Christ, Davies whispered. Wright thought the hardest part was over. He was wrong. The real nightmare was waiting for him 2 days earlier in the footage. Keep going back, Wright said. Show me Sunday evening. Davies scrolled backward. Sunday, 2000 hours. Charlotte's bedtime routine. The nanny had logged her official good night at 19:55. Mim cameras showed the nanny leaving Charlotte's room, heading downstairs. 10 minutes later, Camilla entered the frame. She opened Charlotte's door without knocking. The camera angle didn't show inside the room, but Camilla emerged 18 minutes later. Her expression was calm, composed. 3 minutes after that, Charlotte appeared in the doorway. She looked both ways down the corridor, then walked quickly toward the bathroom. Even on the grainy footage, Wright could see she was holding her left arm close to her body. "Can you enhance that?" Wright asked. Davies zoomed in on Charlotte's arm. The resolution wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. Dark marks on her forearm, finger-shaped, like someone had grabbed her, hard. Wright's hands curled into fists. Professional training kept his voice level. "I need copies of all this footage. Tuesday and Sunday, every angle available. Sergeant, this is a member of the royal family. I'm aware. That's exactly why I need it documented. Now." Davies hesitated only a moment, then began downloading the footage to an encrypted drive. While the files transferred, Wright pulled out his phone. He needed to contact someone. But who? Camilla was Queen Consort. Going over her head meant going to King Charles, and Charles was her husband. Wright had seen enough domestic situations during his service to know that family loyalty could override evidence. Even video evidence? No, he needed someone who would put Charlotte's safety first. Someone with authority to act immediately. He needed Prince William. But William was in London, not due back until tomorrow evening. And Wright wasn't certain he could wait that long, and not after what he'd just seen. What he didn't know yet was that opening that footage would change everything. Not just for Charlotte, for the entire royal family. The security office door opened. Wright turned, expecting another officer. Camilla stood in the doorway. Her eyes went immediately to the monitor, where Davies had frozen the footage on a clear image of her hand raised toward Charlotte. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across Camilla's face. Then it was gone, replaced by cool composure. "Sergeant Wright, Officer Davies." Her voice was steady. "I believe we need to have a conversation about appropriate use of security resources." Wright didn't move. Training had prepared him for confrontations with hostile forces, with people trying to talk their way out of situations, with authority figures demanding compliance. While he'd face down ranking officers who were wrong, he could face down a queen. "Your Majesty," he said evenly, "I'm conducting a standard security review." "Standard?" Camilla stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. "Reviewing footage of family members in their private quarters seems rather invasive, don't you think?" Davies shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Wright could feel the younger officer's uncertainty. Davies had been on palace duty for only 18 months, not long enough to develop the backbone needed for moments like this. "The footage shows concerning behavior," Wright said. "It's my duty to investigate potential threats to the royal family." "Threats?" Camilla's laugh was light, dismissive. "From whom exactly?" "From anyone who poses a danger to the children under my protection." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Camilla's smile remained fixed, but her eyes went cold. "I see. And you believe you observed such a danger in that footage?" "I believe I observed an adult striking a child." Silence. Davies had gone completely still. Even the hum of the computer equipment seemed to fade. Camilla moved closer to the monitor. She studied the frozen image for a long moment, then turned back to Wright. "What you observed, Sergeant, was a grandmother correcting her granddaughter. Charlotte had been extraordinarily rude earlier that day. I was teaching her better manners." "By hitting her?" "By disciplining her, something her parents seem reluctant to do consistently. The children are too indulged, too soft. They need proper structure." Wright kept his voice level. "Ma'am, with respect, physical discipline of royal children violates multiple palace protocols. It also violates child protection laws." "Laws?" Camilla waved a hand dismissively. "I'm not some commoner off the street, Sergeant. I'm the Queen Consort. I have every right to guide my grandchildren's upbringing. You have no right to strike a child. Any child, royal or otherwise." The mask slipped, just for a second. Camilla's face hardened, the pleasant grandmother persona evaporating. "You're overstepping, Sergeant. Significantly. I suggest you delete that footage and forget what you think you saw. I can't do that. You can, and you will. She moved closer, voice dropping. Do you have any idea what happens to palace staff who make false accusations against the royal family? And you'll be dismissed. No references, no pension. Your career will end. Wright had expected this. Threats, intimidation. He'd prepared for it mentally. I'm not making false accusations. The footage speaks for itself. The footage shows an out-of-context moment that you're choosing to misinterpret. Charlotte and I have a wonderful relationship. She adores me. Then you won't mind if I show this to Prince William? Camilla's hand moved to her necklace again. Tell. She was worried. William is extremely busy with state responsibilities. I hardly think bothering him with your paranoid fantasies is appropriate. Not my decision to make, ma'am, but palace protocol requires reporting suspected abuse to the child's parents. There is no abuse. Each word came out clipped, sharp. You're manufacturing a crisis where none exists. Madame Charlotte is perfectly fine. She flinched at lunch today. She's hiding her arm. She barely speaks unless spoken to. That's not fine. Camilla's eyes narrowed. You've been watching her very carefully, haven't you? Perhaps too carefully. One might question why a grown man is so focused on a young girl's behavior. The implication hit like a physical blow. Wright felt anger surge through him, hot and immediate. She was trying to turn this around, make him the threat. That's completely inappropriate, Davies said suddenly. The younger officer had found his voice. Sergeant Wright has an exemplary service record. He's doing his job. His job is to protect, not to spy on private family moments. Camilla turned her attention to Davies. And your job is to support the royal household, not to enable baseless accusations. I expect both of you to show better judgment. She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. I'll be speaking to your superior about this incident. I suggest you think very carefully about how you proceed. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again. She left, the door clicking shut behind her. Davies let out a long breath. Sir, that was a threat, clear as day. Wright pulled out his phone. But she made a mistake. What mistake? She didn't deny it. She just tried to justify it and scare us into silence. Wright scrolled through his contacts. That means she knows the footage is damning, and she's worried about who might see it. He found the number he needed. Captain Richard Wells, commander of the Royal Protection Unit, Wright's direct superior. It's a man who'd served the royal family for 23 years and had a reputation for putting duty before politics. The call rang 4 times before Wells answered. Captain, it's Wright. I need to speak with you immediately. It's urgent. I'm in a meeting, Sergeant. Can it wait? No, sir, it can't. Something in Wright's tone must have registered. Wells paused, then said, Hold on. Wright heard muffled voices, then a door closing. Go ahead. Wright laid it out. The footage, Charlotte's behavior, Camilla's response. He kept it factual, professional, no embellishment needed. The facts were bad enough. Wells was silent for a long time after Wright finished. You're certain about what the footage shows? Absolutely certain, sir. Davies witnessed it as well. We can send you the files. Do it. Encrypted channel. Right now. Another pause. And, Sergeant, you understand what you're alleging? Yes, sir. And you're prepared for the consequences? Wright thought about Charlotte's face in that corridor. Thought about her standing there crying, alone, trying to be silent so no one would hear. Yes, sir, I am. Then document everything. Every interaction you've observed, every behavioral change, time-stamped and detailed. I'm contacting Prince William directly. He's in London, sir. Not for long. This takes priority over whatever meetings he has scheduled. Wells's voice hardened. If what you're telling me is accurate, we have a serious safeguarding failure. That ends now. The call disconnected. Wright looked at Davies. Send the captain those files, All cameras, all timestamps, Sunday and Tuesday. Already on it. While Davies worked, Wright opened his notes app and began typing. Every detail he'd observed over the past 3 days. The teacup, Charlotte's quietness, the flinch at lunch, the hidden arm, all of it. He was finishing up when his phone rang. Unknown number. Sergeant Wright. Sergeant, this is Miss Pemberton, Charlotte's tutor. Wright straightened. Yes, Miss Pemberton. Is everything all right? I'm not certain. I'm calling from my personal mobile because I'm not sure who else to contact. Charlotte asked me a question today during our break. A rather unusual question. What did she ask? She asked me if palace guards were required to keep secrets if someone told them to. I explained that guards follow protocols and laws, not personal requests. She seemed relieved by that answer, but then she wouldn't say anything more. Wright's pulse quickened. Did she indicate why she was asking? No. But Sergeant, I've been teaching Charlotte for 2 years. She's never asked anything like that before. And there's something else. Go on. When she returned from lunch today, her left sleeve was torn. Just slightly, near the cuff. I asked if she'd caught it on something. She said yes, a door handle. Very quickly. But what? She's left-handed. If she'd caught her sleeve on a door handle, it would more likely be her right sleeve. She grips with her left hand, reaches with her right. It's automatic. Wright closed his eyes. Thank you for calling, Miss Pemberton. This information is very helpful. Is Charlotte in some kind of trouble? No, but she might need help. Can you do me a favor? Of course. If Charlotte tries to talk to you again, let her. Don't push. But don't dismiss her either. And if she says anything concerning, call me immediately. I will. Sergeant, please make sure she's all right. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. After the call ended, Wright added Pemberton's observations to his notes. The picture was getting clearer and worse. His phone buzzed with a text from Captain Wells. William's helicopter is airborne. ETA Kensington, 45 minutes. Be in the security office, 45 minutes. Wright checked the time, 14:20. That meant William would arrive just after 1500 hours. What happened in those 45 minutes would determine everything. Wright left Davies in the security office and made his way back to the family wing. Charlotte should be in her afternoon lessons now. Art class, according to the schedule. In the East Wing studio, he took the long route, moving through the palace's network of service corridors. These passages allowed staff and security to move unseen, a web of hidden hallways behind the grand public spaces. Wright had memorized every route during his first month on duty. The art studio was on the second floor, a bright room with tall windows overlooking the gardens. Wright positioned himself near a service entrance that gave him a view through a partially open door. He could see Charlotte at her easel, painting something with watercolors. The art instructor, Mrs. Chen, guided her through techniques. Charlotte seemed focused, calm. But Wright noticed she kept her left arm close to her body, using primarily her right hand, despite being left-handed. Your Highness, you'll get better color if you use your dominant hand, Mrs. Chen said gently. My left wrist hurts a bit. I think I strained it during tennis. Oh dear. Should we call the palace physician? No. The response came too fast, too sharp. Charlotte caught herself. I mean, it's not that bad, just a small ache. I'd rather keep painting. Mrs. Chen frowned but didn't push. She returned to demonstrating brush techniques. Wright made a note. Charlotte was now inventing injuries to explain why she wouldn't use her left arm. The lies were getting more elaborate. He was about to move away when he heard footsteps. Quick, purposeful. Coming down the main corridor, Camilla appeared, moving toward the art studio. She hadn't seen Wright in his position by the service entrance. She opened the studio door without knocking. Mrs. Chen, I'll be taking Charlotte for the remainder of the afternoon. A family matter? Charlotte's paintbrush froze mid-stroke. Wright saw her shoulders tense. "Of course, Your Majesty," Mrs. Chen said. "Charlotte, go ahead and clean your brushes." "Actually, we're in rather a hurry. Charlotte can clean up later." Camilla's smile was pleasant, but her voice carried an edge. "Come along, darling." Charlotte didn't move. For a long moment, she just sat there, staring at her painting. "Charlotte," Camilla's voice sharpened. "Now please." The young princess stood slowly, setting down her brush. She walked toward the door like someone approaching an execution. Wright made a decision. He stepped out of the service corridor into the main hallway. "Your Majesty, Princess Charlotte." Both turned. Camilla's expression flickered with annoyance. "Sergeant Wright, can this wait? We have an appointment. I'm afraid I need to speak with Princess Charlotte briefly. Security matter." "What security matter?" "Standard check-in. Won't take more than a few minutes." Charlotte looked between Wright and Camilla. Confusion and something else. Hope in her eyes. Camilla's smile tightened. "Surely it can wait until after our appointment?" "Unfortunately, no, ma'am. Captain's orders. New protocol following the recent security review." It was a complete fabrication, but Camilla didn't know that. "Very well, but please be quick. Charlotte and I have limited time." "Of course. Princess Charlotte, if you'll come with me." Charlotte moved toward Wright immediately, too quickly, like someone escaping. Camilla watched them go, her pleasant mask slipping for just a moment. Wright saw the anger underneath. When he guided Charlotte down the corridor, around a corner, out of Camilla's sight. Then he crouched down to Charlotte's eye level. "Your Highness, I need to ask you something important, and I need you to tell me the truth." Charlotte's eyes went wide. For a child trained from birth to maintain composure, she looked terrified. I don't understand. Your grandmother, has she hurt you?" Silence. Charlotte's mouth opened, closed, her eyes filled with tears. "Please," Wright said softly, "I'm here to help, but I can't help if I don't know what's happening." She said no one would believe me. Charlotte's voice was barely a whisper. She said I was being dramatic, that I needed to learn discipline, that the family has expectations. "Show me your arm." Charlotte hesitated, then slowly pulled up her left sleeve. Its dark bruises in the shape of fingers circled her forearm. Recent, painful looking. Wright felt his jaw clench. He kept his voice gentle. "When did this happen?" "Sunday night. She came to my room after the nanny left. She said I'd embarrassed her at dinner by not finishing my vegetables. She grabbed my arm and told me I was spoiled. Then Charlotte touched her left cheek. "She slapped me. She said it was for my own good." "And Tuesday? I tried to avoid her, but she found me in the corridor. She said if I told anyone, she'd make sure I never saw my parents again. That she'd convince them I was lying, that I was attention-seeking." Tears ran down Charlotte's face now. I didn't know what to do. Wright pulled out his phone. "Charlotte, I'm going to take some photographs of these bruises. Is that all right?" She nodded, and he documented everything. The finger marks, the faint discoloration on her cheek, the torn sleeve cuff. Each photo was time-stamped and geotagged. "One more question. Has she done this before? Before Sunday?" Charlotte wiped her eyes. "A few times. Always when we're alone. She's different when others are around. Nice. But when it's just us..." She shuddered. "I tried to tell the nanny once, but grandmother found out. She told the nanny I had an overactive imagination. The nanny believed her. Your parents don't know? They're always so busy, and grandmother said they'd think I was making trouble, that I should be grateful for her guidance." Charlotte looked up at Wright. "Am I in trouble?" "No, absolutely not. None of this is your fault." "What happens now?" Wright heard footsteps approaching. Camilla's voice calling Charlotte's name. "I'm getting closer. Now I make sure you're safe. Stay close to me." Camilla rounded the corner, her pleasant expression firmly back in place. "Charlotte, Darling, we really must go. Sergeant Wright, I trust your security check is complete. Not quite, ma'am. Wright stood, positioning himself slightly in front of Charlotte. There's been a development. What sort of development? The kind that requires immediate attention from Princess Charlotte's parents. Her parents aren't here. I'm her grandmother. I'm perfectly capable of handling whatever this is. I'm afraid that won't be possible. Camilla's eyes narrowed. Sergeant, you're being deliberately obstructive. Stand aside. I can't do that. That wasn't a request. With respect, ma'am, neither was my statement. They stood facing each other in the corridor. Charlotte pressed closer to Wright's side. Camilla's mask finally cracked. The pleasant grandmother disappeared, replaced by someone cold and dangerous. You're making a serious mistake. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? Yes, ma'am. Someone who's been abusing a child. The words hung in the air between them. Camilla's face went pale, then flushed with anger. How dare you? Charlotte, come here this instant. Charlotte didn't move. Charlotte? She's not going anywhere with you, Wright said. You have no authority to keep her from me. I'm the Queen Consort. You're a palace guard. Know your place. My place is protecting the royal children. That's exactly what I'm doing. Camilla pulled out her phone. We'll see what Captain Wells has to say about this insubordination. Captain Wells is already aware of the situation. But, ma'am, as is Prince William, who's on his way here as we speak. For the first time, real fear crossed Camilla's face. William? You contacted William about this? I followed proper protocol for safeguarding concerns. What he discovered next changed everything. But first, if you're enjoying this story, drop a like and let us know in the comments. Would you have confronted a queen to protect a child? Now, here's what happened when Prince William arrived. Camilla's composure shattered completely. She took a step back, hand still clutching her phone. You had no right to involve William in private family matters. Striking a child isn't a private family matter. It's assault. I was disciplining my granddaughter. There's a difference. Not in the eyes of the law or palace protocol. Camilla's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, and Wright saw her face go white. She answered, voice tight. Yes. Wright couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, but he watched Camilla's expression shift from anger to something closer to panic. I understand. Yes, I'll be there. She ended the call and looked at Wright with pure hatred. You've just destroyed your career. You realize that? If that's the price for keeping Charlotte safe, I'll pay it. Camilla turned on her heel and walked away, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Charlotte watched her go, then looked up at Wright. Is my father really coming? Yes, he'll be here soon. Will he be angry? Not at you, never at you. Charlotte nodded slowly. Can I wait with you until he arrives? Absolutely. Wright guided her to a small sitting room near the security office and one of the palace's many quiet spaces. This one overlooked the gardens. He radioed Davies. I'm in the blue sitting room with Princess Charlotte. Notify Captain Wells. Understood. The captain says Prince William's helicopter just landed. Less than 5 minutes later, Wright heard rapid footsteps in the corridor. The door burst open. Prince William stood in the doorway, still in his suit from the London meetings, breathing hard like he'd run from the landing pad. His eyes found Charlotte immediately. Charlotte? She ran to him. William caught her, lifted her, held her tight. Charlotte buried her face in his shoulder and started crying. Not quiet, polite tears. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook her small frame. William's eyes met Wright's over Charlotte's head. The prince's expression was controlled, but Wright saw the fury underneath. Sergeant Wright, Captain Wells briefed me. Show me everything. Wright pulled out his tablet, brought up the footage Davies had compiled. William watched it all while holding Charlotte. His jaw clenched tighter with each clip. When the footage showed Camilla's hand striking Charlotte's face, a muscle in William's temple jumped. And the photographs? Wright showed him the images of Charlotte's bruises, the finger marks, the torn sleeve. William's hand trembled slightly as he scrolled through them. When he finished, he carefully set Charlotte down and crouched to her eye level, just as Wright had done earlier. "Charlotte, sweetheart, I need you to tell me everything, from the beginning. Can you do that?" Charlotte nodded and started talking, haltingly at first, then faster. The words poured out. Sunday night, Tuesday in the corridor, and other incidents over the past months. Being told to keep quiet, being threatened, being made to feel like it was her fault for not being good enough. William listened to every word, his face growing harder with each detail. When Charlotte finished, he pulled her close again. "You did nothing wrong. Do you understand me? Nothing. This is not your fault. Grandmother said I was being difficult, that I needed to learn proper behavior. Grandmother was wrong, completely wrong, and this stops now." William stood, Charlotte still in his arms, and turned to Wright. "Sergeant, I want you to know that what you did today took extraordinary courage. Many people would have looked the other way. You didn't. My daughter is safe because of you." "Just doing my duty, sir." "You did more than your duty, and you protected my child when I wasn't here to do it myself." William's voice cracked slightly. "Thank you." Captain Wells appeared in the doorway, followed by another man, Wright recognized as Detective Inspector David Pierce from the Metropolitan Police's Royalty and Specialist Protection Unit. "Your Highness," Wells said, "Inspector Pierce needs to speak with you. This situation requires formal investigation." William nodded. He looked at Charlotte. "Sweetheart, I need to talk to these men for a few minutes. Can you stay with Sergeant Wright?" Charlotte gripped William's jacket. "Don't leave me." "I'm not leaving. I'll be right outside that door. You can see me through the window the whole time. I promise." Reluctantly, Charlotte let go. William set her down gently and kissed her forehead. And then he stepped into the corridor with Wells and Pierce, positioning himself where Charlotte could see him through the glass door panel. Wright sat with Charlotte in the sitting room. She was quiet now, exhausted from crying. After a moment, she spoke. "Will I have to see her again, Grandmother Camilla?" "Not if you don't want to." "I don't want to. Does that make me bad?" "No, it makes you honest and brave." "I'm not brave. I was too scared to tell anyone." "Bravery isn't not being scared. It's doing the right thing even when you are scared. You told the truth when it mattered. That's brave." Charlotte considered this, then leaned against Wright's side. "Thank you for believing me." Through the glass, Wright watched the conversation in the corridor. William's face was set in stone as Pierce explained procedures, and Wells gestured to his tablet, probably showing the evidence. William nodded, jaw tight, listening. After 15 minutes, they came back in. William went directly to Charlotte, scooping her up again. "Charlotte, Inspector Pierce needs to ask you some questions, just like you told me what happened. Is that all right?" Charlotte nodded. Pierce was gentle, professional. He'd clearly done this before. He asked specific questions, documented Charlotte's answers, took additional photographs under proper chain of custody protocols. The whole process took nearly an hour. When it was done, Pierce turned to William. "Your Highness, based on what I've seen and heard, there's sufficient evidence to proceed with formal safeguarding measures. I'll be filing an official report. The Queen Consort will need to be interviewed." "Where is she now?" "In her private quarters," Wells said, "under escort. She's not to have any contact with any of the children until this is resolved." "Good." William's voice was ice. "I'll be speaking with my father shortly. But first, I need to take my daughter home." He looked at Wright. "Sergeant, can you arrange secure transport?" I don't want anyone except essential personnel knowing Charlotte's leaving the palace right now. Already arranged, sir. Private vehicle, trusted driver, will meet you at the East Gate in 10 minutes. William nodded. Thank you. I'd like you to accompany us if Captain Wells can spare you. Consider it done, Wells said. The drive to Adelaide Cottage, William and Kate's residence, was silent. Charlotte sat between William and Wright in the back seat, as holding her father's hand. William stared out the window, his free hand clenched into a fist. When they arrived, Kate was waiting at the door. She must have received word because she rushed to the car, pulled Charlotte into her arms the moment the door opened. My baby. Oh, my sweet girl. Kate held Charlotte tight, eyes closed, rocking slightly. When she finally pulled back, her face was streaked with tears, but her expression was fierce. Is it true? What William told me? Charlotte nodded. Kate looked at William. Where is she? Contained. Pierce is handling the investigation. Father is being briefed. Not good enough. Kate's voice was deadly calm. I want her out of this palace. Out of our lives. Today. Kate. No. Listen to me, William. That woman put her hands on our daughter. Our 9-year-old daughter. She terrorized her. I've made her afraid in her own home. There is no coming back from this. William touched Kate's arm. I know. Believe me, I know. But there are procedures, protocols. We have to do this properly. Then do it properly. Fast. Kate turned to Wright. Sergeant, I understand you're the one who uncovered this. Yes, ma'am. Then you have my deepest gratitude. If you hadn't... She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Wright spent the next 3 hours at Adelaide Cottage. William made him go through everything again for Kate. Every detail. Every piece of evidence. Kate listened with the same controlled fury William had shown. When Wright finished, Kate took Charlotte upstairs for a bath and bed. The young princess was exhausted, emotionally and physically drained. William poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Wright. I know you're on duty, but medical exception. You've earned it. Wright accepted. They sat in the study, the silence heavy. I should have seen it, William said finally. I'm her father. I should have known something was wrong. With respect, sir, you couldn't have known. She was deliberately hiding it, and Camilla was careful. She made sure there were no witnesses. Except the cameras. Except the cameras. William took a long drink. My father is going to be devastated. Whatever else Camilla is, he loves her. This will destroy him. Better destroyed than complicit? You're right. Of course you're right. William set down his glass. I spoke to him on the drive here, told him everything. He didn't want to believe it. Then I sent him the footage. What did he say? Nothing. For a long time, nothing. And then he asked me what I wanted him to do. William's voice was hollow. I told him Camilla cannot remain in the palace while my children are there. Cannot have access to them, ever. And he agreed. She's being relocated to a private residence in Scotland. Effective immediately. Official story is she's taking time to focus on her charitable work. The truth stays contained. Wright frowned. Sir, with respect, that sounds like she's getting away with it? William's eyes were hard. She's not. There will be consequences. But publicly destroying the Queen Consort creates a constitutional crisis. Damages the monarchy. Damages the very institution my children will inherit. So we handle it quietly, but we handle it. What consequences? She'll never be alone with any of the royal children again. Never. And her schedule will be controlled, her movements monitored. She'll have no official role in their upbringing. And if she ever attempts contact Charlotte doesn't want, the police report becomes public. All of it. It wasn't the justice Wright wanted, but he understood the reality. Royal families played by different rules. And Charlotte, we're approaching the moment that shocked everyone who witnessed it. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. We share stories like this daily. Here's what happened when the truth came out. Charlotte will have counseling, professional support, and she'll know, absolutely know, that she's safe, that she's believed, that what happened to her was wrong and will never happen again. William looked directly at Wright. Because of you, she knows that already. You believed her when she was too scared to speak, and that matters more than you know. Captain Wells arrived an hour later with formal documentation. Statements had been taken, evidence secured. Inspector Pierce's report would be filed with Child Protective Services, though the royal household's internal measures would supersede normal procedures. Sergeant Wright, Wells said, I need you to sign off on your evidence chain, and I wanted you to know that your actions today have been noted at the highest levels. I was just doing my job, sir. You were doing more than your job. You were doing what was right, even when it would have been easier to look away. Wells handed him a tablet. Sign here, here, and here. Wright signed, making his evidence official. Permanent record, no going back. Kate came downstairs as Wells was leaving. Charlotte wants to say goodnight to Sergeant Wright. Wright followed Kate upstairs to Charlotte's room. The young princess was in bed, looking small and vulnerable in her pajamas, but her eyes were clearer than they'd been all day. Sergeant Wright? Her voice was soft. Yes, Your Highness. My mum said you're the one who made sure I was safe. I just paid attention when I should have. You believed me, even when I was too scared to ask for help. Even when Grandmother said no one would believe me. Charlotte sat up slightly. Thank you. You're very welcome. And Charlotte, you were incredibly brave today. I didn't feel brave. The bravest people never do. They just do what needs to be done anyway. Charlotte smiled. A real smile. The first Wright had seen from her all day. Kate walked Wright back downstairs. At the door, and she paused. Sergeant, I want you to know something. There will be formal recognition for your actions. Not immediately. These things take time, but it's coming. That's not necessary, ma'am. It's entirely necessary. You protected our daughter when we couldn't. That debt can never be fully repaid. But we'll try. Wright drove back to Kensington Palace as the sun set. The day had lasted a lifetime. He was exhausted, but wired. Adrenaline still coursing through his system. In the security office, Davies looked up with relief. Sergeant, Captain Wells said to tell you you're off duty for the next 48 hours. Mandatory leave. I'm fine. Captain's orders. You've been through enough today. Go home. Rest. We've got this. Wright nodded. He gathered his things, headed to his small flat in London. But sleep didn't come easily. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Charlotte's face in that corridor, crying silently, trying to be brave. The next morning, Wright's phone rang early. Unknown number again. Sergeant Wright, this is Princess Anne. Wright sat up straight, suddenly very awake. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, known for her no-nonsense approach and fierce dedication to duty. Your Highness, good morning. I've been briefed on yesterday's events. I wanted to speak with you directly. Yes, ma'am. What you did took courage. Real courage. Many people in your position would have hesitated. Worried about their careers. Worried about the politics. You didn't. You saw a child in danger, and you acted. I just did what needed to be done, ma'am. You did what was right. That's not always the same as what's expected or what's easy. Anne's voice was firm. The family owes you a debt. Charlotte is safe because you refused to look away. I'm glad she's safe. As are we all. I want you to know that your actions have been formally documented. You'll receive proper recognition. And, Sergeant? Yes, ma'am? If you ever need anything, you contact me directly. I'll make sure you have my private number. People who stand up for what's right deserve to know they're supported. The call ended. Wright sat in his flat, staring at his phone. Princess Anne's private number, for a palace guard who'd just confronted a queen. The world had shifted overnight. Over the next week, the official story emerged carefully. Queen Camilla was taking an extended sabbatical in Scotland to focus on her charity work. She would maintain minimal public duties. The children would continue their schedules as normal, out with enhanced security measures. Only a handful of people knew the truth, and they weren't talking. Wright returned to duty after his mandatory leave. His schedule had been adjusted. He was now assigned exclusively to protection details for William's children. Direct order from Prince William himself. 2 weeks after the incident, Wright was conducting his morning patrol when Charlotte appeared in the corridor. She was heading to lessons, escorted by her nanny, but she paused when she saw him. "Good morning, Sergeant Wright." "Good morning, Your Highness." She smiled at him, a genuine, happy smile. Then she continued on her way, chattering to her nanny about something she'd learned in science class. That smile made everything worth it. 3 months later, Wright was summoned to Prince William's office at Kensington Palace. He arrived in full dress uniform, uncertain what to expect. William was waiting, along with Kate and Captain Wells. On William's desk sat a small box. "Sergeant Wright," William said formally, "in recognition of your exemplary service and dedication to the protection of the royal family, it is my honor to present you with the Royal Victorian Medal." Wright's eyes widened. The RVM was a personal gift from the monarch, given for exceptional service to the royal family. "This is typically presented by His Majesty the King," William continued, "but under the circumstances, my father thought it more appropriate that I do it. He sends his personal thanks and gratitude." William opened the box, revealing the silver medal. He pinned it to Wright's uniform himself. "Thank you," William said quietly, "for Wright's ears only. Thank you for protecting my daughter. Thank you for having the courage to do what was right. Thank you for being someone we can trust, absolutely." Kate stepped forward. She didn't say anything, just hugged him, quick, fierce, then stepped back. "Charlotte wanted to be here," she said, "but we thought it might be a bit overwhelming. She made you something, though." Kate handed him a folded piece of paper. Wright opened it carefully. It was a drawing. Charlotte's artistic skills were improving. The picture showed a palace guard standing next to a small princess. Both were smiling. At the top, in careful handwriting, "To Sergeant Wright. Thank you for being brave. Love, Charlotte." Wright felt his throat tighten. "I'll treasure this," he managed. "She talks about you sometimes," Kate said, "about how you listened when she needed someone, or about how you believed her. That matters to her. It matters to all of us." The ceremony was brief, professional, but the gratitude was real. Wright returned to his duties with the medal in his pocket and Charlotte's drawing carefully stored in his locker. Reminders of why he did this job. Not for recognition, not for medals, for moments when someone needed help and he was there to provide it. The final moments of this story are unforgettable. Stay with us until the end. Now, here's what happened next. 6 months after the incident, Wright was on duty at Adelaide Cottage, evening patrol. The family was having dinner inside, the warm glow of the dining room visible through the windows. Charlotte appeared at the back door, spotted Wright on his rounds. "Sergeant Wright, do you have a moment?" "Of course, Your Highness." She walked over. I'm more confident than she'd been that terrible day. Therapy had helped. Time had helped. Being believed and protected had helped most of all. "I wanted to tell you something. We had family counselling today, all of us. Mum, Dad, George, me, even Louis, though he mostly just played with blocks." Wright smiled. "The counsellor asked us to talk about what makes us feel safe. I said you. Is that weird?" "Not weird at all." I told them about how you noticed something was wrong, even when I was trying to hide it. How you didn't ignore it or pretend everything was fine. How you made sure I was protected, even though it probably made your job harder. Your safety is my job. I know. But you did more than your job. You cared. That's different. Charlotte looked up at him seriously. I'm going to be queen someday, probably a really long time from now. But when I am, I want people like you around me. People who do what's right, even when it's hard. I think you'll make an excellent queen. I'm going to try, and I'm going to remember what you taught me. What's that? That being brave means doing the right thing, even when you're scared. That people in power have to use that power to protect people who can't protect themselves. That the rules matter less than doing what's right. Charlotte smiled. Those are good lessons. Yes, they are. She went back inside to finish dinner. Wright continued his patrol, thinking about what she'd said. True duty wasn't about following orders blindly. It was about knowing when rules mattered less than doing what was right. When protocol mattered less than protecting someone who needed help. When career concerns mattered less than a child's safety. Wright had made his choice that day in the corridor. He'd chosen Charlotte over his career. Truth over politics. Right over easy. He'd do it again without hesitation. Because that's what it meant to serve. Not just to follow orders, but to protect. To stand between danger and those who couldn't defend themselves. To be the person someone could count on when everything went wrong. Wright had been that person for Charlotte. And in doing so, he'd reminded everyone around him what service really meant. The palace continued its routines. The public never knew how close disaster had come. How a child had suffered in silence until someone finally noticed. How courage had come from an unexpected place. But the people who mattered knew. William knew, Kate knew, Charlotte knew, and they would never forget. Years from now, when Charlotte stood as queen, she would remember the palace guard who chose her safety over everything else. Who believed her when she was too frightened to ask for help. Who showed her that true service meant putting others first, no matter the cost. That lesson would shape the kind of queen she became, and it all started with one guard who paid attention, who trusted his instincts, who refused to look away. Sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. One person willing to do what's right, even when it's hard. One person willing to speak up when others stay silent. One person willing to put a child's safety above all else. Sergeant Thomas Wright had been that person, and Charlotte's life was better for it. If this story showed you something about royal guards you didn't know, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, as we share these untold stories from inside the palace every single day. Drop a comment. If you had been Sergeant Wright, would you have confronted the Queen Consort to protect a child, knowing it could end your career? Would you have had the courage to do what was right? We'll see you in the next one.